As a person who loves sports, one of my joy recently has been taking Noah to the first grade basketball classes. It's becoming more fun to have something to actually cheer for as it looks more like basketball. Yesterday, as I was sitting on a bench, I was observing a drill they were doing. It was a drill to practice their dribbling. First, their task was to dribble the ball around while the music is playing, and then when the music stops, you stop dribbling. That's the first exercise. It's to develop a better control over the ball. Simple and clear. So they've done that several times. The music definitely helped to bring energy into the court. Once they've done that several times and got used to the rule, they advanced into the next drill. So this time, they were to dribble the ball around the court, and then when the music stops, this time, they had to return to the half-court circle as fast as they can. So that was the second step. A little bit more complicated. It requires a little bit more of a control of the ball because you're not just holding the ball, but you're actually changing the momentum in your body to a different task of running back to the center. First time through, they were all over the place. Ball were bouncing out everywhere. It was interesting to see that just by the fact that you had one more task after holding the ball, they were having trouble accomplishing the task they were already capable of doing. But eventually, over repetition, they got better at it. But they weren't just getting better at it, but they also began to use their brains. Because they knew their task was to return to the center circle, they were lingering around the circle area. They learned the pattern of the coach when she lifts her wrist up to look at her watch. They learned that was a sign that the music will stop soon. So they would hold the ball before the music actually stops. But the coach knew that this was going to happen. So there was a new next level to this drill. This time, you were to dribble around the court, but with a tail on you. It was similar to playing a flag football. So while dribbling around, you need to chase after other tails. And you can't stay nearby the circle all the time because you'll be an easy target if you do that. So once you have your tail taken by someone, you need to dribble back to the center, and that's where you can reattach the tail back on you and to return to the game. So that was the rule. What happened was, there were children who were naturally more inclined to go after others, and then there were children who were naturally more inclined to preserving their own tails. Noah was clearly on the latter group, spending most of his time running away from potential threats. And afterwards, he told me that he only got 2 tails after all. And that's okay. That's okay. Because it's not about which one is better. Sometimes I feel like our success-driven culture values the risk takers and call them the winners. And as someone who passed on to Noah the genes to be more cautious, planned, strategic in all the tasks I do, even when it may feel like nothing is being done, I think it's more about the balance. At least that's my excuse. It's the balance. We need both in our lives. If you know about yourself that you are more of a go-getter, a doer, a bold risk taker, you work on taking a little more time for others to get on board with you instead of going by yourself. That's a balancing act. If you know about yourself that you are more of a defender, having everybody on board is more important than the actual task type of person, then you need to work on being more intentional about pacing yourself. Be aware and be able to name your fears that prevent from you going forward. It's all about balancing between those two. For this past four Sundays, we've been talking about why Trinity, with the hope to become an outward-focused congregation. We share that it begins with you as individuals, right? Us as individuals. We need to become a more outward-focused individuals first. And I'm repeating these again and again because they're not a one-time done deal type of thing. We need to keep working on them. So we start there. In a private level, individual level, be a more outward-focused person. Then we talked about the 3 questions. Again, questions that we need to keep asking ourselves in our meetings, in our budget planning, in our children's ministries, and every other aspect of ministries that we do or involved with. Why do people need Jesus Christ in their lives? Or why wouldn't they? Why do people need a church in their lives? Or why wouldn't they? Why do people need this specific congregation, Trinity United Methodist Church, in their lives? Or why wouldn't they? Keep praying for a person who comes close to your heart as you reflect on those questions, because you know why you need Jesus, why you need a church, and why you need Trinity Church specifically. And there will be a person that comes to your heart who can also find hope, joy, and peace in their lives. Last week, we talked about working on the level of our energy, the excitement that goes into the things we do. If a person can walk into our Sunday service, or our thrift store, or our community lunch, or our office during the week, during the office hours, and feel and notice that type of energy, that's what hospitality comes down to. You feel welcomed? Not when you feel welcomed, not when how clean and perfect the house you were invited to is, but when you see the fresh vacuum mark on the carpet. That's when you know that this person was actually getting ready for you. So let us continue to remember that also as we continue to become more outward-focused congregation. And today, we come to the point where we begin discussing about our vision. We've been hearing through our prayers, we've been hearing that throughout the past weeks, vision. In today's Romans reading, there is a vision for the body of Christ where we practice unity and diversity. It read like this: So in Christ, we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each one of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. That's a vision. But first, we need to understand the difference between a goal, what a goal is, and what a vision is. Vision is the bigger, bolder, daring dream that God is dreaming in you. That's what vision is. On the other hand, the goal is a concrete, shorter term steps to get to your vision. So to become a united family embracing our diversity is a vision, whereas the goal would be to run, for example, a spiritual gift survey from everyone in our church to learn about what our individual gifts may be. So those are two different ways of thinking. So if I use Noah's basketball example, if the goal is to learn how to dribble better with one hand, the vision for these drills and practices is to fall in love with the game of basketball. That's the difference between vision and a goal. Or in a personal level, if the vision is asking the question, what is God dreaming in me? What is God dreaming in me? The goal is to figure out what needs to be done right now in order to get there. So that's how we look at it. The reason this distinction is important is because we tend to start visioning for a little while, and then we try to feel comfortable by quickly setting up goals. That's what happens. Before wrestling enough with the vision piece, we fall into the goal piece. So I admit to you that this is not the first time I used the word vision at Trinity in my preaching. Every beginning of year, I probably used the word vision of some sort. Because vision itself can sound crazy sometimes, unrealistic, impossible, uncertain. I also tend to rush myself into setting concrete goals, more tangible steps, before spending enough time with the vision question. In this process, you ignore the inner nudge, the strong nudge that you know it's there. You end up finding a compromise with the rest of the world, right? But Romans chapter 12, verse 2 says this, do not conform to the pattern of this world. Notice the word pattern. It's not talking about morality or certain behavioral action that you disapprove, but here it is talking about our mindset, the way we think. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Those are the words. By renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, God's good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's how it goes. It's about vision. It's about vision. A bold vision that God is dreaming in you, in us. So today we're going to spend some time to talk about that vision. I know I have been giving a lot of participation by writing in the past few weeks because I believe that writing down helps us to organize and clarify our train of thoughts by putting it down. And for today, our goal is not to come up with a well-polished final version of vision statement of any sort, but we are going to dwell in that raw stage, okay? It might take us a few weeks to get to the final point, or it might take us the whole year. It might take us a few years to get there, but we are not going to rush into setting up goals yet. But make sure that we spend enough time on visioning. So we're going to write down on this what you wrote down on your little piece of paper. We're going to write it so that everybody else can see it too. So it'll be more like a brainstorming session. And I'll ask you to remember two things when we do this. Two things. Remember to remain open. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is remember to keep the big picture in mind. Those two things. Be open and remember the big picture. So we have 3 questions on your paper. What brings you deep gladness as a Christian? And then the second question is, what resources does Trinity Church have to share? Right? And what are people in our community of Montpelier hungry for? So those 3 questions. So are you guys all done already? Very good. Maybe we can get to the vision today. So I'll share mine first to give you a little bit more time to work on yours. The thing that brings me deep gladness as a Christian is when I can help and walk along with someone in their life so that person can get in touch with God and their inner selves. That's when I feel the most joy. And for the second question, what resources does Trinity Church have to share? I have several things for this. We have our building. We have our structure. We have, for me, a community of imperfect and vulnerable individuals. I think that's what we can offer. But most importantly, for me, the good news of Jesus Christ. That's what Trinity Church can offer, can share with the community. And then for the third question, what are people in our community hungry for? I wrote down a sense of belonging in a culture where independence is valued more. So that's what I wrote down. So let's do this.